Welcome to Die Hard on a Blank, the podcast where we explore the influence of Die Hard on action cinema, one action movie at a time. I'm Philip Gawthorne, and with me as always is Liam Billingham, and today's film is 16 Blocks.
It's Die Hard on the streets. Specifically the streets of Manhattan. 16
Die Hard
of
on
them.
16 blocks.
16 specific blocks. Though I have a few doubts about the geographical correct
The
specificity
geographical
of this
specificity?
movie.
Okay,
yeah, someone that lived there for a long time. But that's neither here nor there.
We have an amazing guest as well to talk about this film.
do.
Liam, would you like to introduce
I would.
our special guest?
We know them as a Free Jack fanatic. But they're also the head of editorial at Letterboxd, one of the greatest websites to just kill hours of your life on. MItchell Beaupre, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Excited to talk about Free Jack, all of our favorite scenes, all of our favorite characters.
Which Jack is the
we were
most
having some
free.
off-mic Free Jack chat that's going to bleed into the show. Did we just mispronounce your name as well? Because I specifically wrote down that it was Beaupre.
Oh my goodness,
Right?
Let's do it again.
So-
I don't know how I did
No,
that.
keep it in.
okay.
Let's rock with it.
My favorite Free Jack fan, MItchell Beaupre, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that's embarrassing. Ooh. Thank you for catching that. I specifically asked. I want the listeners to know. And
We
then I
tried
still managed-
That's my
Desperately.
favorite. It's not the first time that it's happened where it's been asked, and then 5 minutes later when we're doing it, it's mispronounced. But it's a tricky one. It's French Canadian. It's
It is
all
a
over
really
the place.
nice name. So there you
Thank
go.
It's
you.
fancy.
Thank you.
It's fancy, so we want to get
Exactly.
it right.
It's fancier than I am. It's fancier than Free Jack would allow. But it's what I got.
Speaking of Free Jack, you've interviewed a lot of really cool people for Letterboxd. Do you have like a favorite 90s-ish adjacent action star or someone who would fit in with the DNA of this here podcast?
Oh yeah. I'm trying to have a think. I mean, like I can think of. So like I interviewed Walter Hill, not a star, but a man who worked with Bruce Willis in the 90s on Last Man Standing. Director-wise, I did also interview Abel Ferrara, who's kind of in the vein, but actor-wise, actor-director, I interviewed Bill Duke, who directed Deep Cover, and I interviewed him about Deep Cover when the Criterion of that came out.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I'm not sure actor-wise. Maybe like Eric Bana is like sort of, had a little run where he was doing movies that would be sort of in the vein of that like Hulk era Bana. And I love Eric Bana. Guy Pearce, I interviewed.
Wow, this is a pretty impressive resume. I would love to press you on the Walter Hill interview, because obviously we have our whole podcast with 48 Hours of Buddy Movies essentially dedicated to the paradigm he created. We love Walter Hill. We've talked about Last Man Standing. Can you tell us a little bit about that interview and the context of it and what that was like? Because I'd just love to hear about it.
Yeah, so I interviewed him, not for Letterboxd, but for the Film Stage, who I freelanced for a bit, and I interviewed him for Dead for a Dollar, which is a Western, his most recent directed movie with Willem Dafoe, Christoph Waltz, and yeah, it was just a great chat. He's probably like top 3 directors of all time for me. I love Walter Hill, and so getting to talk with him about just his approach to action, which he kept referring to as physical courage, which I thought was a really sick way of describing
That's going on
being
a
an action movie
t-shirt
filmmaker.
immediately.
He told a great story about directing The Long Riders, which is a Western he did about like the Jesse James gang, and the day that Samuel Fuller came to visit the set, and Walter Hill lost his mind on the cast because he was like, Samuel Fuller is coming to set, like you all need to fucking behave. Yeah, great stories. I would love to chat with him again. Honestly, he's just a legend.
Phil, do you like Walter Hill?
just a little bit. That's so cool. Well, there's so many things we would love to talk to you about, but today's focus is this motion picture 16 Blocks. What's your relationship with this particular film? Had you seen it before? Had it been in your life? Were you a big fan of it? Where'd you line up with this one?
Yeah, I was really excited to come on and talk about it. I saw 16 Blocks in theaters when it came out with my dad. My dad and I, my dad's like a very big action movie. My dad,
Dads.
like I've loved movies all my life. My mom really loves movies, and so like my mom, when I was like a teenager, we live in Delaware, so like we would have to drive like an hour and a half to see like anything that's not like, you know, mainstream, whatever, like anything that's like art house, any, you know, Oscar kind of movies, we would have to drive. And my mom and I would do that like all the time. And that was like a really nice kind of bonding thing for her and me. My dad kind of only really likes action movies and like Hallmark, like romance stuff. Like it's really like a
It's
big
weird fusion of my wife
yeah.
and I. Like, what is happening?
It's a huge leap, the movies that he's interested in. So like any action stuff, him and I would go see together. And especially Bruce, we like love Bruce Willis, and so we would always go check out his stuff. And I remember us seeing 16 Blocks and both coming out of it being like, that's definitely like one of his peak. Like I, you know, we can get into it more. I think this is one of his best performances. I think this movie rules. And I had watched it kind of, it was a regular rotation movie for me for a while. I had the DVD, I watched it a lot, but I hadn't revisited it in quite a while. So I was really excited to check it out again and come on here. And it holds up for me. I still loved it. I thought it was really just like talking about Walter Hill, like it's a kind of movie that I would see somebody like Walter Hill directing. It's really straight down the middle.
Yeah.
It's really lean and mean, and it has like a great hook. It's a very like Western-y hook,
Totally.
like Walter Hill's movies often are. Westerns are my favorite genre, so I was really in the pocket for it.
Wow, you really are the perfect guest for this for this episode. It's
I knew all
fantastic.
this, of course.
Of
before
course,
I
of
asked
course.
Mitchell to do the
So,
episode.
Liam, your good self, was this one that you
Yeah.
have a story about from back in the day?
I don't have a great story about it, but I will say I saw this movie at my like peak pretentious period of movie watching because it came out.
Has
in
that ended?
No.
The perfect time to see 16 Blocks is
exactly.
when
When
you're
you're
the
really
most
feeling
like
that.
snobby.
Yeah, exactly. I was living in Prague at the time, and I went to the multiplex there to see it, and most of what I'd been seeing had been like, you know, art films and stuff. There's a lot of that stuff playing there. But I remember it was like August of 2006, I think, or something along those lines. And I remember kind of being like, man, Bruce and Dick Donner, like, and then like I literally think I was in the theater and like I saw David Morse's name and I was like, oh, how hard is this gonna go? So I saw that and I don't have a strong. I recalled liking it. I think because it was just like nice to see. I mean, we'll talk about this, but just like Bruce Willis's relationship to the movies where he plays a cop is so special and so interesting. And I don't have a theory, but I'm trying to formulate a theory about why Bruce does that so much beyond the like obvious, like pay me $1 million, like $1 zillion to do this and I'll do it. And in the revisit last night, yeah, I think it's like a perfectly solid couple hours at the movies. I have some questions about some of the performances in the movie, but besides that, I feel like I there's so much to love about this, and there's so much to love about like Richard Donner's just incredible workmanship. I really love that aspect of it, and I sort of wish that like they'd made more movies together. It's like the perfect fusion of my favorite action franchise director making, you know, a movie with like one of the great, not just great action directors. And Mitchell, you appreciate one of the big arguments we've been making on the show covering movies like 12 Monkeys and The Siege even is like we don't think of Bruce as a great action. We think of him as a great actor, like period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, he's doing this really specific riff on something he's done 1 million times. So I'm excited. I feel like will be the most.
It's quite distinct, and we'll break all of that down in more detail in the hero section. So I don't want to cover it don't want to sort of jump ahead on that. But yes, I totally agree. I won't waste too much time with my history of this. I don't have a huge one. I think I rented it. You know, my opinion has more or less stayed the same. I'm going to say I'm not as big a fan of it as Mitchell, although I do agree.
Time to fight, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have a friendly squabble about it. But I do think Bruce's work is exceptional in this, and obviously I love Dick Donner and I love Morse, and there's a lot of things that I really love about the people involved and some of their work within it, but I do have a couple of major quibbles, shall we say. But I think one of the reasons why I'm most interested to discuss it on this show before we get into our regular sections, our regularly scheduled programming, is there is a school of thought amongst certain film fans that this is the real Die Hard 4. This is a Die Hard sequel from an alternative universe. I think particularly, we'll talk about this in the Die Hard DNA section, but the kind of old John McClane, like especially as a continuation, not so much of his character in Die Hard 1 and 2, but as a continuation of his character in Die Hard with a Vengeance, specifically, where he's on the streets of New York, battling a hangover, and his life is a real mess, and you could kind of see him becoming that guy. So I just wondered, as a particular fan of the movie, Mitchell, what do you think about that idea? Does that sort of spark anything for you?
Yeah, I have it. I had it down in my notes as a thing to talk about on here because, like, I think like it so clearly plays like it, and I don't know if that for him was something that, like, I'd be curious, like, if it was something that he intentionally was kind of leaning into, because you see, like, it's interesting to see this, and then the next year is Live Free or Die Hard, which, like, it's a movie that I kind of defend. I like Live Free or Die Hard. I think it's a really fun time at the movies, but it is Die Hard going in a very different direction. It's going so big and so broad in a way that it loses the grittiness of kind of, especially Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 3. And I think this feels more, and John McClane in Die Hard 4 is where he kind of takes that turn into being more like superhero, like not the everyman that he was established as. Here, it's the total opposite. This is a guy that feels so real and so of the earth and so flawed, especially as we get even deeper into the movie and see just how flawed he actually is and how he's kind of reckoning with that. And I think that it does feel like a sort of a more natural trajectory of where that character could have gone and what Bruce's performance could have gone into, rather than Live Free or Die Hard, which kind of is trying to like reverse engineer him going in a different direction, even though I really like that movie. This feels to me more authentically like where that character in that franchise could and should have gone. I feel like this would have been a perfect cap to the Die Hards, and then we could have just all forgotten about the Russia, the whole.
Still haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah,
it's
I've heard
bad.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. But it is an interesting kind of point of divergence, isn't it? It could have Die Hard could have kind of closed the book with a film like this that explored the older John McClane, and it was maybe more of a character piece, but in the end they decided to almost go in the superhero direction, which we will talk about in detail when we do get to Die Hard 4. But I just wanted to sort of put that in as a kind of key headline for a point of discussion if we, if further thoughts occur to any of us throughout the show.
What do you think about that idea? Do you like it?
Me personally, I'm like, I think it's interesting, but I don't like this way that this, and it's just a kind of like sad old bastard. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't know that the Die Hard 4 thing was the right thing either, even though, like you, I totally agree with your assessment of Die Hard 4. I'm like, I dig that movie. I think it's really cool. It's totally different. And it doesn't, and some people could feel like it's a betrayal of the legacy or whatever. I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's definitely not. It's a tonally and completely conceptually different movie than any of the three that preceded it. But I also don't love the end, because this is just kind of like a downbeat. I love the idea of like a John McClane character piece, but not the mood of this film and where the character ends up. It would need to be a bit more triumphant for me. I think if it was going to be his last chapter. But I think it's a very interesting thing to think about. What do you think, Liam?
I mean, this kind of bleeds into my bigger thoughts about Bruce, but my hot take, my Subway take, my Riverside take is that all franchises should work in trilogies to moderate degrees of success, right? Like, and like that obviously, like, I just think that like that it's like the old fairy tale thing. The magic number is 3 or 7, right? And like when you have a trilogy, like Die Hard, Die Hard 2, and Die Hard with a Vengeance that I think does a really nice job, or even Lethal Weapon 1, 2, and 3, which for me are the like classic like redemption of oh my god, Riggs sort of storyline. Like when I don't love the last scene of Die Hard with a Vengeance, but it ends with some finality in terms of where he is as a character. And so, you know, what they didn't really necessarily need to bring it back. You know, that's sort of like where my brain is at. So yeah, but that said, I do like the idea of like almost this being an epilogue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like this movie is an epilogue. It's a smaller character drama, and I think that that's potentially really interesting.
It's sort of like, I think if there was a Logan type
That's
movie
kinda
that
what
was
I was
just
thinking,
called
too.
Returns,
McClane, you know, that was just called McClane.
Oh.
And he's older, and it's like he's in a bad spot in his life, but it's like a redemption story. I think could have
that
been,
sounds amazing.
you know, really cool. And there was the McClane Year One idea explored, which would have been a prequel. And I tried reading the graphic novel of that, and I found it was just extremely unpleasant.
Is that Year One?
Yeah, it's very almost like Frank Miller-y in the sense of like every character is so horrible. That it's just that style of like you know, really oppressive nihilistic
That's not
you know,
Die Hard.
70s New York. Yeah, it was a bit like,
Yeah.
ooh, I couldn't quite get my head around it, although I think it's a cool idea. But we could talk until the cows come home about all of this, and we still have not even introduced our fast facts. So let's get them on the streets. This film was directed by Richard Donner. The Donner Dudes Rise Up, written by Richard Wenk, starring Bruce Willis, Mos Def, who was credited as that at the time, later changed his name, which we'll talk about. David Morse are the three principals. It was distributed by Warner Brothers on March the 3rd, 2006. Budget, 52 million. Box office, 65.7 million. So a sort of modest profit. But I don't... And that kind of sums it up for me. It's like a kind of base hit, I guess. You know, it's like
Home video probably.
Yeah, I was reading.
You know?
It was like on home video. It was in the top 50 DVD charts for like 17 weeks, like
Okay, yeah,
consecutively.
yeah.
So like it definitely, I
Totally.
think, was playing a lot on DVD and surely on USA, TNT, whatever.
It suits that kind of
Yeah.
lifespan for sure.
This is a great hungover on the couch on Sunday afternoon movie where you like don't want to move.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, 16 blocks is on TNT. It's 105.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There's an advert for pharmaceutical products every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Or that's just
Because
my.
they know their audience. Yeah, they're 50s who need it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's talk about why we're discussing it on this show in a section that we like to call.
Die Hard DNA.
Right now,
Right.
let's get into roll. If I had sleeves, I'd roll them up. Bruce
Roll 'em
Willis plays a hard-drinking New York cop who has to improvise like hell to get out of a really bad situation. And we've talked about this expression, the idea of die hard is a guy in trouble in a box. Here, it is not a city, as it is in Die Hard with a Vengeance, but a small section of the city, the titular 16 blocks. Later in the film, the perilous situation becomes contained to an even smaller box in the form of a city bus, where Bruce Willis and Mos Def's characters are forced to take refuge, triggering a hostage situation similar to the one seen in the likes of Speed, and more specifically The Siege, which you mentioned, also starring Bruce Willis. The whole film takes place more or less in real time, over a compressed time frame. Much like in the original Die Hard, Bruce Willis's character is being hunted down by multiple bad guys and frequently finds himself in a number of contained situations and cramped spaces, including a key scene in and around an elevator, where he must use his skills and street smarts to keep moving and survive. At one point, he also has to tend to his own injuries in a bathroom. Like in the original Die Hard, he is mistaken for a bad guy by the authorities, who are largely portrayed as misinformed, corrupt, bloodthirsty, and ruthless. Like in the original Die Hard, it is very cynical about the police and state power and state institutions. But most of all, I think it is fascinating to think of it as a Die Hard sequel from an alternative reality that extends the McClane character. If he had taken a dark turn, you know, and he had ended up in this he's just kind of depressed when the movie begins. Also,
It's like the saddest Bruce Willis.
yeah,
character.
yeah, it really is, and he
Even
plays
that
he
includes
plays a
12
lot
Monkeys.
of he plays a lot of sad characters, but this is
Yeah.
like I'm like, whoa, this like. You're wearing a Lars von Trier hat. This is a Lars von Trier movie at the beginning of the level of like, this is what depression
that's the
feels
shit I
like.
was into then.
you
Like, I
know?
was like, let's go.
Like Die Hard with a Vengeance, so the story also features the use of riddles. Mos Def's character uses a riddle as an icebreaker to get to know people. And finally, and most astonishingly to me, the story features a character named Gruber.
Yeah.
Casey Sander as Captain Dan Gruber. At one point, David Morse's character utters, "Get Gruber down here." I'm like, what the
absolutely
bizarre.
A reference though.
That's
Absolutely.
a no.
Yeah,
They did it on purpose,
I think it's also worth saying that there's a little bit of 48 Hours DNA, speaking of Walter Hill, or as we like to call it, I don't know if you want to do your little... As it's a
48 chromosomes.
It's inspiring
It's also weird
of
for
the
people
Omen.
who have it on the Patreon. They're like, why is he singing like that?
That's our Die Hard DNA section where we do 48 hours or 48 chromosomes. In that we've got an older alcoholic cop who's white partnering up with a young black criminal / petty thief. Scenes on the subway, the two of them tear-assing around the city. They don't get along at first, but eventually form a friendship of sorts. So we had to discuss this film. It covers all the bases. Anything to add before we take a quick break and then launch into our main section?
Mitchell?
All right.
good.
Excellent. Well, we will chew into the meat in the sandwich after this quick break. And we're back with our favorite main section of the show. Jack Mosley. I did have a good break, Jack Mosley. Right.
With no disrespect to Mr. Yasin Bey, it's
a great...
The voice is a lot.
I mean, you got to know when you're doing that like there are going to be opinions on it, right?
Yeah,
and
It's a
the
choice.
thing for me is like, exactly. Like I like a choice. I like a choice. I like a swing, but it's like, I don't know. It's a big one.
It's kind of the point of the character. We'll get into it, but it's
Did
like
Tom
he's
Hardy
supposed
go
to
the Mos
be...
Def school
Oh
of
my God,
voices for his
amazing.
performance?
I learned everything I could about acting from
Mos
Def in
Def.
16
Tommy,
blocks.
that what you do a
What
part,
if
you have to
on
do a
like
silly
every
voice?
set, he's like on the set of Dark Knight Rises with Christopher Nolan, and Christopher Nolan's like, "This is how I see Bane," and Tom Hardy's like, "Did you ever see 16 Blocks?"
I was thinking something different, yeah.
It doesn't matter who we are. What
Amazing.
matters is our plan.
So
It's amazing.
let's move into our main section of the show, Anatomy of an Action Movie, where we explore the tenets.
We live in a twilight world.
And there are no friends at dusk, Jack Mosley.
Jack Mosley.
Of an action motion
Jack
picture.
Mosley's a good detective name.
His
Well,
name is
That's a good
Eddie
name.
Bunker. We've got
It's
to talk
weird
about
that
We've
Mos
got
Def's
to-
name is Eddie
we'll
Bunker.
get-
I'm
we'll
shocked
get
that that's
into it.
not a quiz question, honestly. Oh, do you like Tenet?
Are you...
Tenet, I don't like Tenet.
Ah, you're not on the
Sorry,
Tenet train?
I know it's like it's not the cool opinion. I don't like I wish that I did. I wish that I really I want to. I've seen it like 3 times.
The
I go in every
sickos,
time.
Really, it's really for the sickos, you know?
Yeah, I respect the fandom around it. I respect it. I maybe one day I'll get on board with it. But
Once you hit like 17 viewings, then you really
Yeah.
punch
No,
through.
yeah, you got to be like 12, 13.
Yeah, you have to
Then
Helsinki
it really
syndrome
starts to click.
yourself into liking it. For some folks. Okay,
for
the
me. I
premise,
was there from
not
the
for us.
beginning.
Yeah, me too. I'm just trying to help people come into the club.
Yeah.
Okay, the first tenet is the premise. So the premise of 16 Blocks is as follows. Aging alcoholic New York City detective Jack Mosley is a depressed deadbeat waiting for death when he's given an unwanted but seemingly routine assignment to transfer petty criminal Eddie Bunker, Mos Def, from a jail cell to court where he is planning to testify to a grand jury. However, after he saves Eddie from an assassination attempt, Jack comes to discover that everyone, including his own NYPD colleagues, seem to want Eddie dead. In need of redemption, Jack becomes determined to get Eddie to court on time, no matter what the cost or the consequences. Okay, so basically, one guy has to get another guy 16 blocks before the time runs out. But there's a little bit more elaborate explanation of that. Okay, why don't we start with this question that we like to ask? And Mitchell, you can dive in if you wish. You can field this one. What's this movie about beyond the superficial plot elements? Is it about anything thematic or deeper than the surface events of the film, in your opinion?
I mean, I think that it's ultimately, and they play it a little bit on the surface. I think it's about whether we can change, right? And I think it kind of comes back around to that at the end, and the idea of whether we as human beings are capable of change. And you get Jack Moseley as a guy who, especially as we learn, has a lot of demons in his past, and he's struggling with this idea of, like, we know that he's struggling with alcoholism. We know that he is just a guy who doesn't want to be there, doesn't want to be doing anything really, like you said, waiting for death. But we don't really know like why that is. And I think that the further along we go, like we see him see what's happening with Mos Def's character, and that this like sad, kind of pathetic guy is just being like put out to pasture. And there's like a really deeply the scene where David Morse and his guys get to them in the bar, and Morse is talking to Willis, and he's almost like casually talking to him like as if they're just shooting the shit, while he also is like orchestrating, and this is how we're going to do the frame.
Right.
That's going to explain how we get away with murdering this guy in cold blood right in front of you. And it's just so casual. It's an incredible David Morse performance. It's so chilling. And
yeah, he's doing something in this movie. It's
yeah,
wild.
it's like it's really unnerving. And that's the moment where Jack Moseley is kind of like, I'm not doing this anymore. And he turns that switch. But as we go on later, like we get a better sense of the turmoil that's going on with him, and sort of like how big of a shift this is for him, of this need for like, I need to do one last good thing before I get off of this earth. And it's because like I just kind of need to like reset the balance almost. And so I think that, and it's an idea that, it's a little bit basic, but I think it's really effectively drawn in the movie. The questioning of whether we are capable of change, and what that actually fully means. Yeah, that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I think that's dead on. Liam, do you have further thoughts before I prosecute this film?
Well, I think maybe you tell me if you want to save this, but I think there's like a Bruce Willis specific what this movie is about that sort of feeds into what we're doing with the podcast that I'd like to talk about. So I think let's save that as a bridge.
Okay, all right.
To our Bruce Willis
do you mean in a
section.
slightly more metatextual sense?
Yeah, slightly more metatextual, and also like the story of what with so many of even the most iconic characters in his career are always people looking to fix a mistake they've made.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Well, why don't you touch on it a bit
Well,
now?
that's actually really, because this is like right after Hostage, which is very much exactly that too.
Well, I've just been sitting here and I'm like looking back at his filmography, right? And it's like, okay, 1988, the Mac Daddy Die Hard it's about him coming to visit his wife and like, hopefully trying to
fix a
patch
mistake.
things up,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
right. Last Boy Scout, he's a shitty dad who sort of like learns to be a better dad. Dire to the Vengeance, he's kind of that's the closest in spirit to this one, right?
He's
and
divorced by that point,
and that movie
right?
is not about that movie is sort of about like Bruce just McClane reconnecting to his humanity, right, through dealing with this thing from his past, but also becoming friends. We're becoming on the same terms with Zeus, right? With Zeus.
Right.
I almost said Jesus, which is not his name, and in fact a butt of the joke. And then you even get, he does like, then the next big thing obviously is Armageddon. Literally a shitty dad movie, right? And then you have, where is it? Like another, Hostage, Sin City.
Both of the Shyamalans, you can see both of the Shyamalans
Totally.
as that as well.
Sixth Sense is Unbreakable. He's like this absentee father figure, right? And then he does this in 2006, right? And then he kind of jumps off this train to do like Live Free or Die Hard. But again, that's a shitty dad movie. And even some of his later interesting, Moonrise Kingdom, he's kind of a disconnected cop figure in that movie, right? So it's like there's this like Bruce Willis is always playing authority figures in need of some kind of personal redemption.
Mm-hmm. And this is definitely a redemption story, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah. So I would say that's part of its thematic
and
content.
Striking Distance is about a guy who fucks up and then ends up, in the river.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just I don't know. It's like a no one ever talks about like an actor's oeuvre or like what they're sort of like What
Yeah.
is Stanley Kubrick makes a movie about dehumanizing technology over and over again, right? Like, but Bruce Willis seems to be really interested in like professional people who are good at their job that suck at their life.
That's
And I
really
think that's
Fiction,
interesting.
he's doing that too. Yeah,
Totally.
it really does.
It's a really
Thinking
interesting
about his
theory.
filmography like this, it really does unlock
Or
a lot.
Looper. Looper is literally how do I go back in time, like a go forward in time and back in time movie, right? So
Yeah.
I think that like we've talked about on this show how like we think Bruce is a really great actor, but it feels like one of his pet projects, and it goes into his quirky dramas. It goes into the more adult movies he does, not adult, but the more sort of like thrillers he does with Shyamalan, and then to partner with Richard Donner, who apparently read the script and was like, I have to make this movie. And I wonder if it's because if he had success with like making the greatest movie ever made about a alcoholic suicidal cop who has to redeem himself in Lethal Weapon. Like there really is this perfect fusion of, at least for the beginning of the movie, that sensibility, right? And I think I want to talk a little bit about Wesley Morris's review of this movie, which was Wesley Morris is amazing. But one of his points that he says is he first of all, he talks about Timeline, which is the movie Richard Donner made before this, which is not well remembered.
Yeah.
But he says 16 Blocks is a kinder, more competent, slightly less forgettable experience. The plot just feels 30 years old, like one for a movie 75-year-old Donner might have tried in his prolific prime. His action direction is still fleet, lots of handheld camera work and plenty of virile, Wesley Morris is the best, shootouts and crashed up property. Which is to say, the film is admirably old-fashioned, motivated more by dialogue and character than a sheer appetite for destruction. Nobody says so, but 16 Blocks feels like a remake of Clint Eastwood's The Gauntlet, in which Eastwood tries to transport hooker Sandra Locke from Las Vegas to Phoenix to testify at a mob trial. What strikes out to me the most here is like, if this movie took place 70 to 80% of it in the bar where David Morse first confronts him, I would be like, I would love this movie. Because I feel like it's more of a character drama with these like action flourishes attached to it, and I would kill to see like a barfly Bruce Willis movie.
All right,
It
okay.
feels like a big narrative thing for him, is this redemption arc.
Yeah, the redemption, certainly the redemption aspect of it, and that's a really interesting point about Bruce's what kind of wider filmography. That we'll maybe continue with that when we get to talk about him more specifically in the hero section. But I want to kind of mount a different perspective on it, because I just it's a tough one because I love Donner and obviously I love Bruce Willis, but I really there's a lot of things I have a real problem with in this film, and in my humble opinion, right, I think there is a confusion about what this film is. What I mean by that is it feels, obviously there is the Gauntlet is a reference in terms of the plot thrust, right? But in terms of the Clint Eastwood movie, but in terms of the tone, to me, it's as if you're going for Sidney Lumet.
Yeah.
But it's filled with this ridiculous sentimentality, right? That is completely works against that hard-edged, almost sort of verite, almost documentary-like dispassionate style that like a Lumet picture has, where it feels like real life is unfolding in front of the camera, and it's not sentimental. It's the total opposite. It's completely. It's just like this kind of a stark realism and a sort of cynicism that also feels very New York, right? Arguably the least sentimental, toughest city in the country, right? It's just hard boiled. So for me, this, if I was Paul Hollywood, who is from the same neck of the woods as I am, I would be criticizing the amount of sugar and syrup in this recipe, because it doesn't work. And this is articulated, I think, more crisply by a critic that I want to quote, Michael Atkinson of The Village Voice, who called it a small movie trying to seem epic, or a bloated monster trying to seem lean. It's like it for me, it's sort of neither fish nor fowl, because it's kind of confused about what it is. And if you think of, if the aspiration is, say, French Connection, right, or which this has some similarities with, in terms of its like propulsion narratively, and on the streets of New York, and a tough cop who is street smart trying to get something done. against various forces of opposition, that is the least sentimental film ever made, probably about the NYPD, so for it to have all of these saccharine bits, especially at the ending, literally with a fucking birthday cake that has the themes
I
written on
forgot
it.
he was a baker, so I was
Right.
like, what is happening here?
It's just so, to me, that is so incongruent with a sort of hard-boiled street movie about corrupt New York cops. So that's why I think this is a weird, it's like it has the aspiration to do a certain type of movie, but then it's also got, it's like, is it going to be gritty or glossy? And this kind of tries to be both, and therefore it, like, for me, it doesn't land the punch that it wants to. That said, there's great stuff in this movie, particularly Bruce's performance, and I love the fact that this movie exists. I love the fact that Richard Donner, the director of the Lethal Weapon series, made essentially a kind of Die Hard movie, with Bruce Willis. I love that, and I love Morse. I absolutely love
I
Morse.
tweeted a photo of them looking at each other, like that if either one of them looked at me in that way, I would shit my pants. Just like staring at each other. And this is another example of like, we just didn't know how good we had it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Because-
question, though, that
Yeah.
I want to ask you about something as well, though, in terms of the wider context of the films that we've discussed. Speaking
Yeah.
of Morse, and specifically The Negotiator, right? Why that works.
Oh.
Why does The Negotiator work? And why does Assault on Precinct 13 work? And why does this work not less effectively, in my opinion? And I think that might be worth kind of, I have my own thoughts on that. But in terms of like, if you're going to do a sort of police corruption movie that's also an action movie, those are two examples of films we've covered that I think absolutely nail it in different ways, actually. So I don't know if you have thoughts on any of the things that I've said, because I want to give you a chance to defend it against that accusation. Perhaps, Mitchell, if you want to speak to the jury.
Well, I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense. I think for me, those two movies, which I love both of those two movies as well, I think that they kind of ride the line like tonally of the action movie and the character drama a little bit more effectively than this one does. Where I think that the pacing of this movie can be a little bit odd, where the action scenes are a little bit like when the action really kicks in, it's like it feels almost from a different, like it's from a different movie. And then when you shift out of that into, and I think the bus scene is a great example of this, where we're holed up in this bus where Bruce is holding these people hostage essentially for an extended kind of period of time. And it's a little bit, watching that scene now and how long it goes on for like 10-15 minutes, and I was sitting there thinking like, why is this scene in this movie? Because it doesn't ultimately really get us to anywhere new, and it feels like them taking a stop to almost like remind themselves that they're trying to like give it a character focus, but they're not really bringing anything new in that scene that we haven't already gotten or that we're not going to get beyond that. And so I think that for me, there maybe is a little bit of a discord in the pacing of it and how much that balance is being measured of how much this is an action movie versus how much it is like a character drama. I was curious for you guys, because you talk about the sentimentality, which I understand the issues with that. Have either of you guys seen or read about the alternate ending of the movie?
Yes, let's talk about it. I've watched it and I wanted to bring that up. So by all means, let's discuss it.
So in the alternate ending, Bruce Willis's character, it's basically just the very end where instead of the one of Morse's guys is aiming his gun on Bruce, and it gets averted and everything's fine. And in the film proper that's released, everything's fine, everything gets resolved, blah blah blah. Bad guys go away, Bruce is great, gets a birthday cake, fantastic. And the alternate ending, which is as far as I understand, the original ending that was written in the script, the Morse's guy gets his shot off. Morse tries to kind of divert it and save Jack Moseley, but fails at doing that. Bruce Willis dies. And that's the ending of that character. And the birthday cake is still there. The birthday cake gets delivered to his sister,
That's right.
It gets delivered to his sister from Mos Def's character, and who seemingly doesn't know that Jack Mosley even died, which is kind of a really sad, like
That is really
bitter
sad.
kind of moment.
Also,
of
it
him.
doesn't make sense because you would hear about it.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There's a couple little moments in the alternate ending that don't make sense. The other being, why does David Morse have like the sudden change of heart to want to try and
It doesn't
prevent
work.
Mosley from
That's why
dying?
they didn't use it.
Yeah, but it does feel like that fits more with ultimately the tone of the movie as far
Yeah.
as like my interpretation of the tone of the movie, where it does feel like this character's sort of natural storytelling end is that he has to sacrifice himself, and so I think getting the ending with him and his friends sitting around at the bar wherever they're at getting the birthday cake, it's a little bit.
Fucking hate it, man. I hate it. I hate it. You just know. It's just like at the end of French Connection, like Popeye Doyle is like there having a birthday cake with the boys, and it's like, oh, maybe people can change. It's like, fuck this. This is not like authentic to the world that you have created. But
because you can have that change while still you could have that change in a character's like soul while still having them die at the end. You don't need to have them survive and everything be rosy and happy.
It's just such a pulled punch. And the other version of it, the alternative ending is interesting because the Morse character, as you say, has a kind of redemption and jumps in. It's messy though, because he like jumps in front of him, takes a bullet, but it doesn't. The bullet passes through him and still kills Bruce Willis. So it was a sort of pointless act of heroism, and then Bruce Willis just dies on the steps, basically, which is a bummer. But this is why I feel like the film has an identity crisis between and ultimately decided, you know what, that's too much of a downer. We're not going to really commit to making what this should have been.
That's what Donner said, like when making it, that they decided to go for something that the word that he used was more like empathetic towards the characters. And I feel like you don't need you can be empathetic towards the characters without needing to have that sort of an ending to it.
I think if this was a $15 to $20 million lean, like stripped down, like brutal cop movie that was the shorter running time and had more of a clip to it and didn't have like, if you're going to have a propulsive movie, don't have a 10 to 15 minute section where they're stuck in a bus, literally in a confined space, because you're killing the thrust of the film, right?
It's weird. Yeah, it's a weird moment.
And then you could commit to him dying at the end, but it can still feel like a kind of a moral victory of some kind, or like a sacrifice that was paid, or a penance that was paid. But because
he still is saving Mos Def, like at the end of the day, he still is like this guy. His redemption is saving this guy who doesn't deserve to die. Not to say that like Bruce Willis deserves to die or anybody deserves to die or like whatever the fuck, but like like it's that's your redemption. Your redemption isn't doing this so that you can then live like your life like happy and guilt-free suddenly, you know, when you're really crippled by this guilt the entire
Deus Ex
time.
Machina, and I think it's because it's a $50 million Warner Brothers film, although it's also the other thing about the discordance of it is it's both a Warner Brothers film and a Millennium film, and those that's a weird like those two things. Millennium, for anyone that doesn't know, are like kind of the king of programmers for foreign sales driven action movies, right? They do the Expendables movies, they do the Olympus Has Fallen movies, and are kind of the canon of their time to some extent, like a little bit more elevated, but that was the canon model in the 80s of like action movies that was driven by foreign sales. The fact that it's the two things together is what is part of the uncomfortable tension of like, is this a glossy Warner Brothers classy film or a foreign sales driven sort of scuzzy action film that has the things you need in it, or is it a character piece, or is it a Lumet picture, or is it basically the other big thing is this movie a 70s movie or not? You know what I mean? Like, it's pick a lane and pick a tone, and then I just think that's my issue with it. But I'll be quiet now. Liam, go ahead.
No, I gotta tell you, I've been listening to you guys talk over here, and I also did like a very quick round of research about kind of what was going on in action movies at this moment, because it's actually like pretty crickety for mainstream action movies. So Schwarzenegger is the governor of California.
Right.
That was pretty good. I have to say that was a pretty good Arnold. And also from 2006 to 2009, do you know what Sylvester Stallone was doing? He had a TV show called The Contender, which was a reality television show produced by Mark Bornett, which took the format of a game show, with the boxers divided into 2 teams based on their places of residence, and he was a presenter on the show.
This has been
For 3
erased
years.
from
I've
like,
never heard of
the
that.
culture.
Well, exactly. So totally. But
Probably
I think
by
that
him.
What's interesting is that like Schwarzenegger and Stallone both detailed incredibly well in Nick DeSemlian's book, The Last Action Heroes. This is like the twilight to some extent of not of their careers, because obviously they both have gone on to do these incredible things. But like Schwarzenegger essentially walks away from film acting.
Right. For 8 years, basically.
For 8 years to be the governor. And Stallone, because he's smart, is like, I'm going to go see about this reality TV thing. Because like, you know, I have to keep paying for houses and all the things that like I've done with my life, right? Bruce is still just making movies, right? Like, and again, it's like, you know, Bruce here's 2 to 3 really reliable things about Bruce.
Let's make this the hero section as well. Carry on your train of thought, but let's pivot into the hero, Bruce Willis as Jack Moseley, while we're on Bruce.
I say this with the most respect in the world for Arnold and Sly, because I do love them both in a lot of ways. Maybe not their politics, but I do love the guys very much. Bruce always just stayed an actor.
Yeah.
And I think that like you knew maybe when this came out we would have been like, ugh, God, Bruce Willis is doing another cop movie. But now I'm like, oh, thank God Bruce was still like, like he was hanging on to making big action movies where he does real acting, where he makes himself vulnerable. I mean, he looks like shit in this movie. Yeah. And one of the most powerful things in my mind is that everyone around him like knows he's an alcoholic. Hey, just sit on the crime scene and babysit it.
Yeah. They kind of treat him like a child.
Yeah, treat him like a child because he can't get his shit together, right?
Yeah.
But then when he blows that guy away outside of the street and kills him, it's like this absolutely amazing, like, oh yeah, there we go. It's Bruce Willis, the action hero.
Those old habits die hard.
Yeah, literally. Like, the guy goes to the window and it cuts to Bruce, and you're like, yeah, baby!
Yeah, it's a great
hero shot. Yeah.
And I just think that it's like, almost, it's like, and you know, I don't want to get into the sad later stage of his career, right? I did notice Randall Emmett's name on this movie as a producer, but it's like, that the fact that he was still kind of like mixing it up with this and still doing this kind of thing. And crucially, you know, it's always been funny to me because what brings these guys all back together in 4 years after this movie comes out is The Expendables, a franchise I have no interest in, have never watched, and like maybe they're good, I don't know, maybe they're enjoyable, but to me it always reeks of like literally let's get the band back together. I wasn't interested in that anymore, right? And so I think that like what I like about what Bruce did here is he was leaning into his aging and his adulthood.
Yeah.
And then we could say that like maybe by going back to Live Free and Die Hard, like he looks incredible in that movie. He looks way younger in that movie than he does in this movie. He's 51 in this movie. So it's like I'm within striking distance of Bruce Willis age-wise as it was in that movie. But I all of this is to say that like I think he's phenomenal in this movie.
I agree.
He's so sad. He's not afraid to look like shit. And yet, it's that thing that he does in every movie. Bruce Willis's entire action hero career is like, you underestimated me.
Yeah.
And that rules. Like, that will always rule that he just like, it's like almost like he's drunk and then all of a sudden he's not drunk and he's just taking dudes out and he's like smarter and he finds the gun under the bar and he shoots that piece of shit dude. Like, so he's still improvising. He's still playing within the sandbox that he's great at so that he can go off and do an Alan Rudolph film.
Right.
Or he can
or a
appear
Wes Anderson
in a
film
cameo
later.
in Nancy Drew and just kind of like hang out and do his thing. I don't know. It may feel obvious, but I'll never stop with the fact that this guy remained committed to like being an actor.
Yeah, bravo.
It rules.
He's so good in this part, and
crazy.
it's such a distinct. Even though we're saying this is kind of like a McClane extension alt universe, it's in some ways it's really not, because this is a totally different type of character. Yes, he's a cop. Yes, he's a New Yorker. Yes, he's an alcoholic. There's superficial comparisons, but in terms of how the center of this character, he is so downcast. And McClane is like in a bad spot in Die Hard with a Vengeance, but he's still funny and sparky.
Yeah, exactly. He's
right?
scrappy. He's witty. He's got like even in Die Hard 3, where he is, when we first see him, he is like completely fucking disheveled. He's still like he's got that spring to him, and this dude here has none of like the life has completely left this guy.
Exactly.
This is if Joe Hallenbeck completely lost his shit, right? Like that's where this is. It's
But
kind of
even
that
Joe
cat.
Hallenbeck is funny.
That's true.
And still has a
Yeah.
sense of humor, even if it's like a bitter sense of humor. This guy has not. His soul is gone. Like he's got nothing. He is an empty vessel wandering through life,
One of my
waiting to
favorite
die.
things, one of the things with this movie that has lasted, and it's funny because it's like it's 16 blocks, like whatever, but like it's not a movie that I think has lasted for most people in their memory, even people who like it. But a thing that I think about like at least like twice a week with this movie is him saying the line, I think life's a little bit too long. Like he says, like people say life is too short. I think life's a little too long. And that's like a line that has just stuck with me so much. And I think it's just a genius line, but it's also like a brilliant encapsulation of the character. And like the idea that like anybody would even pause to have the thought of like, I think life's too long. Like, I wish I was just out of here already. It's just
so
like, it's
sad.
devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And like knowing that you fucking believe it when he says it too. And like, and that's just something that's hanging over this guy, that feeling. And yeah, I think it's a great line in general. I think it's a great line that just in one sentence captures everything you need to know about like where this character is and where he's been for probably the last 15 years of his life. And yeah, it speaks to how this character is quite different from a lot of those more zippy kind of guys that we would see Willis play.
Well, and there's something very Shane Black, in my opinion, about the idea that like, we said earlier, like, we don't really know why he's depressed, why he's, down this rabbit hole. It's because he's one of these corrupt cops, right? And so, the fact that, or that's my reading of it at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, for sure. The fact that they withhold that until like way late in the game, I think it definitely is like, it's an effective reveal to kind of explain to you more like where this guy is coming from and why this means so much to him.
Right.
And it's a great reveal too that like pulls the rug out of like, hey, like I've been fighting so hard this entire movie to get you there so you can testify against these guys. I'm one of those fucking guys. And like I'm like doing all of this. It's so meaningful for me to do one good thing and to like save this person that like I'm willing to like basically set up my own demise by keeping this guy safe.
Totally. And like, yeah, I think, Phil, you're right about the sentimentality of it, but there's something pretty like, that's sort of powerful. It's the thing we always talk about is like, there's no heroes left in the world. Boom, Mel Gibson kicks the door in, right? Like these like kind of, he's doing what I think performance-wise is a great riff on the classic Bruce Willis anti-hero.
Well, I think to that point, a thought has just occurred to me that based on building on what you said, Liam, about the wider context of his oeuvre as an actor and what he has explored, and what is occurring to me in this moment is that Bruce Willis's entire career, to a large extent, could be considered the deconstruction of heroism. Right.
And the McClane character, right? That sort of like thing that he does. Yeah, absolutely.
But they're all about these different ideas. They're different riffs on it. Yes, on a superficial level, this movie's poster is Bruce with a gun and Mos Def behind him, right? The idea he's protecting someone, right? But therefore it sells. Hostage is the same, right? But they're and so on and so forth. With all these Die Hard adjacent movies that are on specific Die Hard movies, right? But all of his characters are like, to what you were saying earlier, are about like, this guy is not what you would think of as a hero, nor is Joe Hallenbeck. And John McClane doesn't start out that way, but is forced to become a hero out of necessity because of the situation that he's in. And this is a great, to your point, Mitchell, I think the subversion of the idea that the guy who we thought of as a typical, Bruce Willis, he's a little bit rusty, but basically he's a good guy and he'll come good in the end. And he's not. He is part of the systemic problem, and he is a corrupt New York City detective.
He's not like it's
really
different than
interesting.
Liam Neeson in taken, you know, like that's not what this guy is. And like Bruce could have so easily done that. He could have turned into just doing that kind of thing, you know, doing what Liam Neeson did for that like 15-year stretch of his career, being just like the really straightforward kind of action hero, but an older version of it. But like to what you were saying, Liam, like Bruce is like he really is like a character actor first and foremost, and he really
100%.
like gets into like who these characters are. And yeah, I know you guys talk about it a lot. Like it's an undervalued thing about Bruce as like a genuine serious actor who like never really quite got the flowers that he deserved.
Yeah, and every performer, you know, he's played tough cops in all of these movies, but even within them, he finds a different shade, a different color, a different perspective on this guy. Whether it's the character in Hostage, whether it's the character in this, you know, so that it isn't just rinse and repeat, you know, like of a shtick. You know, the character in Hostage and the character in it, or they're not John McClane like. They're not funny and making quips or whatnot. Especially this character, he's almost got no sense of humor. He's just totally broken. So yeah, suffice to say, Bruce is the king. Anything else on Bruce as Jack Moseley before we pivot into the second lead of this movie?
No, I think
Should we
not for me.
talk about? Okay, so Mos Def, who that was his name at the time, he now goes by Yasin Bey as Edward Bunker, which is just touch on that for a second. Most people, if you have any passing interest in crime fiction, are aware of Edward Bunker as a significant figure, a former criminal turned author and actor, has appeared in many films that you would know, such as Tango and Cash and Reservoir Dogs as Mr. Blue, many others. It's also rumored that Jon Voight's character Nate in Heat is actually based on Edward Bunker, even down to his appearance. So he's a significant figure in the culture.
What film is that? It's called Heat?
Heat. I don't know if you've heard it. Check it out. It's pretty good.
I believe it's 30 years
I think
old
it's streaming
today.
on Netflix.
30 years old today.
Is it today? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
30 years
it
old
is today.
today.
Yeah.
Everybody, yes, have a moment
Bow
with
to
a
the
candle.
king, babies.
So
Bow to the anyway.
that's a strange thing. I don't think of this character as having the name Edward Bunker, but it's an interesting tidbit. This is, let's just say this. Okay, it's a choice. But I think it's the voice and but he is supposed to be irritating at first. The character is supposed to be grating, especially when you've got a hangover, right? And you're already depressed.
I don't want to hear that voice if I've got a hangover.
It's like Baby Alexander from Peppa Pig for me. Like every time that episode is on, I want to jump out a window, right? That's a specific reference for the dads. But it's very grating. But as it goes on, you start to realize this character has layers and is essentially a kind of upbeat guy, and it becomes, you know, warmth. There's a warmth to him and there's a charm to him. What do you guys think of this character, this performance?
Liam, you go ahead first. I'm curious.
Anytime you want to jump in. I'm vamping here. I'm vamping. You got to commit to an opinion.
I really like Mos Def, Yasin Bey. It's very admirable figure. His music is good. His sort of advocacy is good. It is interesting to cast an actor who's very, very conscious and cognizant of police brutality. And this is, you know, we've talked about Donner's progressive politics.
Yeah. It's smart, isn't it? It's a smart choice.
It's a smart move.
To that.
And also there is something political about a white cop who works with white cops, or white, you know, these kind of white identifying cops, he pushes back and drops rank against them to save a black guy who's like internally been in and out of prison, like one of what would often be like one of society's forgotten. I think that is very political. And I you know, Donner is one of the great sort of like, let's say, liberal leaning filmmakers in Hollywood. And it is fair to say this is his last film. I just think someone should have like toned him down a hair. That's all I think. I think the voice is a little too much. But he's very sweet. He's sweet with the little girl. that's a sweet little moment. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like love this performance, but I think most def Yassine Bey has real charisma, and it's a fun it's fun to think there's a movie that he stars in with Bruce Willis.
And it's a big. This is a big ask. And to be fair to him, you're the second lead with Bruce Willis doing amazing work, right? And you're in almost every scene.
Yeah.
You know, for you have to bring it. You know, you can't be weak. And whether you like the performance or not, he holds the screen, you know, with Bruce, and he can hold his own with Bruce, which, you know, not everybody can because
Totally.
he's so good.
But we've always said that Bruce is a great scene partner.
He's generous.
Bruce gets out
Yeah.
of the way.
He
of,
doesn't
like,
talk a
other
lot
actors.
in the first half an hour of this film, actually, Bruce Willis, and
He's
still holds
very
the screen.
Clint Eastwood has a very similar thing where he really, as an actor, he really like lends the screen to his partners in a really effective way. I mean, they have like a similar kind of stoicism to them. I think Yassine Bey, it's an interesting, it's almost a confusingly directed performance a little bit where like, because I think that there's such a way with this movie where you could go the full like 48 hours of it and make him so much more of a broad kind of character. Like you could make him wittier, you can make him have a bunch of like snappy dialogue, you can make him as like the comedic sort of balance to this guy who is just so forlorn, and have Bruce Willis be the Nick Nolte there. But I like the tone of the character, the Yassine Bey character, is a lot more warm, like you were saying, Liam. Like he's really soft in a way that I find very effective. You really feel for this guy, and it's interesting in that, like, having him have that tone overall as a character, you don't have the thought of like, hey, maybe we don't do the voice, maybe we don't do the voice like as hard, because it is like, it's more of a choice of a voice for like if you're in two scenes of the movie that works.
Yeah.
But if you're having to do it for the entire 2-hour run of the movie, it gets to be like, it's distracting at first, and then you get to keep going, and it's just kind of like, damn, we're really just going with it. Like you almost feel like it's a bit like at first, and that like he'll turn it off at some point, and like that was like like an act that he was doing to like intentionally like, you know, provoke or something like that. But it's really just people don't talk like that. Like it's really weird.
That is I think that's a dead on analysis. I think the exact same performance but without the nasal voice is like significantly better and makes it a better film. Even though I think there's a reason, it's part of the fact that he's supposed to be a bit of an irritant at first, that you then start to, he just sees him as a kind of a hassle. He's not really a human being to him. He's like, ugh. He symbolizes an annoying chore that's the millionth annoying chore I've had to do in this awful job that I now
that's a good
hate.
point. Yeah.
Right? And that's how he's supposed to be at first. But then he starts to realize there's a dimensional human life, and I am actually responsible for its caretaking.
And it's what makes the shift when he doesn't go along with Morrison, the guys. It makes it even more powerful because it's like you're watching the movie up to that point, like, yeah, let him fucking kill this guy. This guy's so goddamn annoying. Like, I have no reason to stick up for this guy. Like, let him do their thing, and then I can go home and whatever. But like, even then, he still is like no, like I'm not gonna let this happen.
And this does remind me of, you know, you mentioned the Western echoes of this, and Assault on Precinct 13 being based on Rio Bravo, of the idea of like, well, why don't we just give him to the bad guys? Like in the original Assault on Precinct 13 and in the remake as well, there's that idea, isn't there? Well, why don't we just give up? They want Lawrence Fishburne. Let's give him up. And it's like, doesn't matter whether you like them, whether they're even a morally good person. It's just the wrong thing to do, and that's such a Western idea. And this, it does make it interesting that it's like, oh, I'd quite like to be rid of this guy, but it's just not the right. This is crossing a line that I won't cross. Totally, and that's really cool. So I think that's a great and fair, I think, assessment of his work in this, which overall I think it is a particular choice, but I think you certainly can't say that he doesn't hold his own against Bruce Willis.
I think it's a good performance. Lead. Yeah.
Let's talk about the villain, David Morse as Frank Nugent.
And the crowd goes wild.
Do you want to kick this off? Seems like you have thoughts, Mitchell.
I think that it's an incredible performance. Morse is And I think perennially one of those guys who's way too underrated. Like he just knows how to come into it. He's one of those guys who changes the temperature of the room, like when he comes into it. And like you get this, like he has like, he plays the familiarity with Willis really well. Like you get this congenial kind of quality to him when they first are talking. But goddamn, he's just so chilling, and he does it without raising his voice. Like I don't think ever, like in the movie, like it's so matter of fact. He's just like, for him, this feels like it's just another day.
Yeah.
And it is just kind of like just getting the shit done. Like this is kind of annoying, but like there's never a moment where it doesn't feel like this guy thinks that he's going to succeed. Like he never feels like he's put on the back foot. He kind of knows exactly what he's doing. It's like, it's inevitable. And I feel like that makes it all the more kind of chilling that like this guy just feels like he's something that's like never going to stop. And it's interesting to me that this came out the year before Disturbia, which Morse is the villain in Disturbia as well.
Yeah.
And it's a really similarly kind of tinged performance in that, where when he steps into a scene, like, he feels like the guy who could be living next door to you in Disturbia, like, and in this too, he feels like the guy who could be living next door to you, but has this like darkness to him that could just get turned on at any second. Like when I was a teenager, I lived next door to a cop for many, many years. And I come from like a cop, like my mom was like a cop. My granddad was like the chief of police. So like I come from cops, and this guy who lived next door to me, he was an undercover cop when I first moved in. And so like he always kind of had this like energy to him that he was a great like family guy. Like he was somebody that you could see as being like a protector, but like you could always just see like he could turn, you know, in any moment. And like, so there would always be this mixture of like, whenever I was leaving my house, I felt like really like a little bit like walking on eggshells of like wanting to like make sure that I'm not doing anything like out of line. And I feel like Morse just has that energy to him in this, with the way that he holds himself, that like you're on edge anytime that he's around. You don't want to step left of this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Well, literally one of his greatest performances, the next door neighbor in Dancer in the Dark, who you gradually come to realize is this, like, utter piece of shit person, right? Yeah, I mean, we've talked so much about David Morse in the past that I don't have a ton to add. I will say that like it's interesting to see him play this like very white ethnic coded kind of like he's not like a general in The Rock, right? Where he's this real high status guy, right? He's kind of just this like New York cop type. And I think it's cool to see him do that. And again, like Hans Gruber, you know, there's like a seductive quality to this guy. He's a smooth talker. He knows how to deal with people. He's not screaming and shouting, you know, as Mitchell pointed out. And I think that is like very smart. And I think David Morse is up there with Ed Harris as a guy that's never given a bad performance in his career.
Yeah.
Like just incapable of not doing something powerful with every role he does.
Yeah. There's one scene in it that I think is probably my favorite scene, where it's very John Woo-esque, even though not tonally but aesthetically, where him and Bruce Willis are basically taking kind of a time out in the middle of a shootout, and they have this quite normal conversation, and it's so brilliantly acted because it's so sort of unexpected, where there's bits where he's like going like Frank, and he's like yeah, it's like very kind of reasonable like low volume conversation while they're actually in the middle of killing each other. They take a time out to talk about their friendship. They talk about life a little bit and the situation and what options are on the table. And it's just a brilliantly acted scene. I'm just, Bruce and David Morse, like having this dialogue is so cool. And even at the end of it, to cap off the John Woo thing, David Morse actually comes out with 2 guns. So it definitely feels like a John Woo little flourish. Just the last thing I wanted to ask you guys on David Morse, who we love, and shout out to Dave Pallas, who proposed the Morse Code podcast that would be about the entire life and career of David Morse. I wondered have you guys seen the film he did where he plays a rare leading role called Mechanic, in which he is a cop. And it was I think it was at TIFF, or it was a film festival movie, and it's very interesting because it is I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And it was the actor from, is it Corey from Glee
Oh,
who passed
Mechanic.
away?
Oh, got it.
Mechanic, yeah. It's basically a sort of French Connection type movie, but he's the lead, and I think he's in every scene. But it's interesting because it has the score is by Johan Johansson, so it has this real kind of artsy gravitas to the endeavor, even though it's sort of this gritty street movie. I'm not sure it totally sticks the landing. It makes a kind of a choice that I won't spoil towards the end of the film that either works for you or doesn't. But it's a great and if you're a big Morse person, that one you should definitely tick off your list. Let's talk about the action. It's Dick Donner, so I mean, it's going to be really, really
Good.
competent.
It's good. Yeah.
Action good. That's our review. Any thoughts beyond the obvious on like, do you have a favorite action scene in this film? Because it is an action film. It's an action thriller, yeah, as well as kind of a character piece. Any thoughts on the action elements or favorite scenes? I mean, there's that alley assassination scene, which I think is brilliant in the way that is staged, where you realize someone is going to shoot Mos Def, and the way that it's framed, he draws the gun and then the window shatters, but it's not him pulling the trigger, it's Bruce Willis.
It's a really, I mean,
So
I
great.
think that's the number
So
one.
good.
I generally tend to like hate like the fake out, like kind of that moment. Like it feels like such a cliche, but it's so effective here.
It's like,
like the fake out
the
of
crowd
like,
the crowd goes wild in that moment,
yeah,
right?
and
Like,
because it's the moment that you first see. I think it's part of it being so effective is you don't see Jack Moseley in that mode yet until that moment, and so it does feel kind of what Liam was saying earlier. It feels like, oh, here he is, like he woke up,
right.
kind of moment that I think that makes it so much more effective. And I think I liked the scene too that you were just talking about, Philip, when he's like trying to get on the elevator and people are coming down, and him and Jack Moseley and David Morse are like having, Bruce Willis and David Morse are having that little interaction. But yeah, it is ultimately, I think, a movie where I don't really think too much about the action scenes in particular. They almost feel like they're kind of filling space. Not that they're bad.
It's not that memorable though, is it?
It's
Unfortunately.
a better ensemble drama or character drama.
Exactly. Yeah. It's those moments. It's the dialogue moments, the exchanges between these characters that I find the most resonant part of it.
Yeah, and especially it's like, one of the great joys of this later period Bruce is he's not necessarily, well, I mean, the thing about Bruce is he seemed to be able to do it always, but like he's doing a little less work in that way. He's doing just more acting, right?
Well, yeah. You look at something like Hostage, which like really sets itself up as like this huge action thing, and he really is more just like he's owning that through dialogue more than anything else, and just the performance that he's given with face and everything.
I want to just throw a take at you guys that I've been thinking about after watching this again, which is one of my favorite things in all of Quentin Tarantino's work is Max Cherry, the bail bondsman from Jackie Brown. I think Forrester I like get a little emotional thinking about that performance. Just
Special.
the wide-eyed way he goes through the world. But
Yeah.
if there was no Robert Forster, and I'm happy it's him in the part, I can so clearly see Bruce Willis playing that part.
Yeah, in his
Just
older years, yeah. Because he can be like in the Moonrise Kingdom, although that's more comedic.
It's still
he
so
can
sad,
play
though.
he can sort of play a bit of a sort of basically a nice sad sack.
Well, that's what
kind of
Sixth Sense
guy.
is.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
sad-
I mean, I think his
Unbreakable.
best performance is Unbreakable, and I think that is that, right? Like it's a guy who he literally like cannot be broken. Like he has super heroic strength, and what he does with it is he lives the most ordinary, like sad life possible. He is like completely alienated himself from everybody around him. He's lost touch with his wife, and he's just like fully internalized himself. And I think that's I think it's one of the great skills of Bruce as an actor is how much restraint he has as a performer.
Quiet. He's a quiet
Yeah.
actor, actually. It's funny when these actors get eclipsed by characters they play, right? So he does. He plays the wise ass in Die Hard for as long as he does, and that's what people think of him as. But Bruce Willis is a quiet, small, restrained actor.
Yeah, gosh, it makes me kind of emotional when I think about like the totality of his career and how special and how kind of unheralded it was at the time. I think unfairly, and at least
Totally.
if we have achieved anything through the endeavor of doing this podcast, then I hope it is just to shine a bit of light on how special his acting really is beyond his movie star charisma. The one last thing, the one on the humor level, is our last tenet, which I don't want to spend too much time on, but I think is worth touching on this
He's a
because,
barrel of laughs. Yeah.
well, it takes away one of Willis's greatest gifts, which
Yeah.
is his sense of humor and his sardonic wit, and as a result, it's kind of a downbeat hang with this sad sack, self-pitying character, but it also is a testament to his greatness because it shows he can be great without being funny,
Totally.
you think of
Well said.
John McClane's a hilarious character, even though like he's not trying to be funny. He just is naturally funny. He's just got that New Jersey blue collar, woe is me, but let's get on with it kind of attitude, right? Which makes you love him. But in this, there's no quips, and
he's
yet
quipless.
it's magnetic,
Yeah.
So I just thought that was worth touching on. Let's put on our tuxedos and head over to the Die Hard Oscars for the Action Movie Awards,
I'm gonna put on
starting
my
with
suit.
yes.
Wear to work.
There's that whole thing. The whole
My
thing.
coffee stain.
The whole thing is
Put
about
the
the
J&B
suit,
in
though.
a cup and just sit there and drink. Oh, it's so. Ugh.
The whole thing is about Mos Def's character getting a suit, isn't it? He
That's
needs a
true.
suit for a cause,
That's
right?
true, yeah.
I need the suit.
The John
Fire
the,
rises. Sorry, okay.
the John McClane Yippee Award for Best Line. I've got 3 nominees. The first one is the one that you mentioned earlier that you flagged. Life's too long, and guys like you make it longer. Oof. Days change, seasons change, people don't change. Jack Mosley. And a line that is weirdly and disturbingly resonant today is when Frank Nugent eventually says, "Fuck the truth," which is
Yeah.
kind of quite powerful. Now we're like, yeah, obviously we're sort of 8 years beyond that.
The truth has been fucked
Right,
for
yeah, exactly.
quite a while.
Exactly. But also, I think this idea of the riddle is quite interesting, isn't it? So for
The
anyone
riddle's interesting.
unfamiliar with the film, this is the riddle. You're driving in a hurricane and you see 3 people at a bus stop. One is an old lady and she's sick. One is your best friend and he saved your life. And the third is the lady of your dreams. Now, you only have room for one in your car. Which one do you take? And it's quite interesting. And the answer that ultimately Bruce Willis comes to is you give your car keys to your best friend who takes your car and drives the old lady to a hospital. You stay behind with the love of your life. It's kind of interesting that he answers it that way because it's like thinking outside the box, which I guess is kind of the purpose of the riddle. And that is very Die Hard with a
That's
Vengeance.
Bruce in all these movies, though.
Exactly.
He's always the guy that like figures out the solution.
Yeah. So thoughts on best line?
It's
For
the
you guys?
lifelong life one.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think.
One of my favorite lines of any movie, honestly.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Sometimes like it's a line's power is in its economy, rather than its being particularly elongated.
When I heard it, I can't believe that I never heard that line
Yeah.
in anything else. Nobody it's such a common phrase, and,
then it's
nobody
in a
thought to
2006
turn that.
action movie is
Yeah.
crazy.
The Hans Gruber Exceptional Thief Award for stealing the film. Mos Def / Yasin Bey. I guess he is the second lead, but I think we can still put him in there as Eddie. There isn't the supporting cast isn't particularly deep.
It's kind of a three-hander.
Disappointingly, actually, I wanted more of your white ethnics in there. I want more of your
I have
New
a
York
pick for
character
that.
actors.
I have a
you know?
great pick for that. Actually.
Okay. The other
I'll
noms
see
I had were David Morse as Frank Nugent, of course, and Jenna Stern as Diane Mosley, Frank's paramedic sister, who I think is very good in the movie. But any other
She is
additional
good.
thoughts? Who stole this one?
I don't know if he steals it, but I need to shout out Nick Zayas, who plays what's the cop? Well, no, that's not his name. I'm sorry.
David Zayas.
David Zayas. Thank
Yes,
you.
I had him in the next category, actually. but-
Who, when I moved to New York, my second or third week there, saw a production directed by Philip Seymour Hoffman, starring Ellen Burstyn and David Zayas. And so he's always been this stalwart New York actor, and so to see
He's a good actor.
he's a really good actor, and to see him in this movie, because I saw this movie before I moved to New York, so I was kind of I didn't really have the context that I have now, but he's in so many good movies. He's in Bringing Out the Dead.
Dexter
He's
is what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
most
that's where I
know him
recognize him
from.
from. He's one of the main
Yeah, he's one of the
characters in
main.
Oh, I didn't know
Dexter.
that. Okay, I've
Yeah.
never
One of the
watched
main
Dexter.
guys in the squad.
And he's really good in The Yards, which
He
is
was
a
just
really...
in The Running Man,
He's great in
actually, as
yours.
well.
Oh,
is
yeah,
in
he
the
was
new
in The
one?
Running Man.
Oh,
The
Yeah.
new
interesting.
one, yeah.
Yeah, he's in The Savages, which is a great movie. Just an actor I really, really have always liked. And
For anyone
Michael Clayton.
unclear, he plays Detective Bobby Torres, who tries to murder Jack in the courtroom scene and gets handcuffed in his apartment. He pops up a lot.
He's really
familiar
good.
face. Is he your pick?
Yeah.
Or just a shout? Okay.
Yeah, but maybe he'll be in the next category too. But he's great.
Mitchell?
Oh, Morse. I mean, what can you do? It's obvious.
Yeah. David Morse. I am inevitable.
I'm inevitable.
Yeah, I would go with Morse. Just rock solid, and occasionally when, I did the alternative ending is interesting. It is interesting that there is still he still likes Jack to some extent. They've been partners for 20 years. There's still a lot of love for him. So he does find ways to make this character a human being, as well as a kind of a monster. And I think he's very skilled,
He's kind of one of those
skillful.
guys who effectively plays this idea of that corruption that they eventually dive into is sort of as a necessity of surviving, having this job. You need to kind of bend to keep going, and this guy bent too much, and you can't really you almost have to justify that to yourself once you've gone that far. He can't come back from it. But yeah, I think to make that alternate ending work, you need a little bit more of that throughout. You need a little bit more of his perspective and his conflict throughout, or even just the alternate ending. It's really jarring, how immediately he shifts from
yeah,
we have to
doesn't feel
murder you
earned
to now. It's bizarre.
Not only is it I will not we're not going to murder you, but I will take a bullet for you.
Exactly.
Just feels a bit it's a bit ham-fisted. Generally speaking, I think when a film has alternative endings, not always the case. I've been involved in situations where it was done for different reasons or explored as a possibility, but also sometimes it can also speak to the fact that if you're considering an alternative ending, it kind of suggests that maybe your ending isn't great. Because you're still
working.
trying to. Or maybe there's something better. It's there's no alternative ending to Thelma and Louise. Put it that way. Put it that way, right? Dick Thornburg Award for Dick of the Movie. I've got David Zayas as Detective Bobby Torres and Robert Racke as Jerry Shue, the thuggish cop in the bar who second he shows up and you're just oh, this guy. I think he's got a tash and he's just built like a brick shit house and you're just you just know this guy is bad news. So
that's it. That's got to be the pick.
I think we'll go with him. It's
visceral how much he sucks.
Exactly.
Oh, fuck this guy.
So kudos to Robert Racke as Jerry Shue. Best death. I only had the one really. Of that one that we already talked about. So I didn't want to waste too much shoe leather on that. Unless you guys had another particularly stirring.
I mean, what is even the competition? It has to be that.
It's a great moment of when Jack Moseley, is revealed to still have it. Let's take one last break then and wrap things up with our favorite final section of the show, the Double Jeopardy Trivia Quiz, where the scores can really change. We'll be right back. And we're back with the Double Jeopardy Trivia Quiz. Hopefully you know the rules by now. 3 quick quiz questions. You can phone a friend, aka you can radio Al Powell, and you can work together to crack the code here. Question number 1. This is the second film we've covered where David Morse plays a villainous figure in a film starring Bruce Willis. But what was the first?
12 Monkeys.
Is correct.
I knew that too.
Very in the spirit of Bruce Willis's generosity as a scene partner. Question number 2. 16 Block screenwriter Richard Wenk is a credited writer on which 2011 action movie sequel that features Bruce Willis among a stellar cast of iconic action stars?
Expendables 2?
Correct.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are just chopping through this
guys,
thing.
I'm never gonna watch those. I've just decided I'm not gonna.
I haven't seen them either.
what's the expression they say?
A glowing endorsement.
I have no recollection, Senator. And
Phil
I'll take the
Cawthorn.
fifth. I'll take the
My
fifth on the poster. All right. Question number 3 from Convoluted Corner. This is a bit of a head scratcher. I think you'll enjoy this one. Okay. Director Richard Donner is well known as the filmmaker behind the Lethal Weapon series, but Donner actually got his start in network television, and between 1973 and 1974, he directed 3 episodes of which classic television show that was also about an iconic NYPD detective.
Oh. No. No. Clue? Clue.
Do you want a Radio Al Powell? Okay.
Yeah.
This particular detective was known for being bald, suave, and loving lollipops.
Oh,
Kojak?
Kojak.
yeah.
Kojak is correct. Apparently,
My
also.
brain went, sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Well, apparently, I haven't fact checked this. My dad told me this, so if he's wrong, I'll blame him. Do you know who directed the pilot of Kojak?
Steven Spielberg?
Is correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Apparently,
cool.
yeah. It's pretty
He
interesting.
very famously directed, I think, an episode of. No, John Cassavetes was directing Columbo,
Right.
and
Oh my
Spielberg was on the
gosh.
set.
Make a movie about that
And John
experience.
Cassavetes turned to him and was like, "What do you think?" And Steven Spielberg was like, but he was like, he credited it as kind of changing his whole brain because he was like, no one had ever asked me a question like
Wow.
that before.
Oh, that is
Damn.
so cool. That's all we got. You guys did great on the quiz. Mitchell, tell us any final, like anything you want to plug, anything else you've got going on, where people can find your work,
It's called
letterbox.
Letterboxd? I don't know.
It's kind of a big deal, but tell us anything you want to say before we let you out of here.
I don't know. Thanks for having me on. I don't plug stuff. It's I feel
You
weird
don't need
about
to.
it.
We
You
should
don't need to.
plug Human Boy Worldwide. because we're wearing your
Human
hat.
Boy Worldwide. Liam's wearing a Lars von Trier hat. I'm wearing a Lost in America hat. Great little retail store online. You can get very cool
Got my
hats,
Eric Romer,
shirts.
Paulina Lepage hat as well from them.
I've got a Green Ray shirt from
Got
them.
their
in
gr-
the,
I have
the
their Green
Romer
Ray
bucket.
T-shirt. I have
yeah.
the Killing of a Chinese Bookie T-shirt. Speaking of John Cassavetes,
Look at that.
so nerds.
Check out Human Boy. That's my plug. Human Boy Worldwide. Follow
Eloy's
them
a cool
on
dude,
Instagram. You can get to their shop from Instagram as well.
And
Well,
don't
that's
worry, Phil,
very-
they do make a Harley Davidson, the Marlboro
Yes!
Man.
The art house classic.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a delight to have you. Genuinely.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this has been great. We will let you go and just do our quick outro. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much
you,
to
Mitchell.
our special guest,
Beaupre.
Mitchell Beaupre,
Mitchell Beaupre.
head of editorial at Letterboxd. Just a little bit of business to take care of. We are taking a short break over the Christmas holidays, but we will be back with a vengeance in early January. However, as a little stocking filler for you guys, just to keep
Yeah, we're not
you
taking a
warm,
break. We're just giving you something tasty to listen to.
we're going to drop our recent BBC Radio 2 appearance on the feed. It will be the audio on Die Hard on a Blank's feed, and we will give you the full Bells and Whistles video version on the 48 Hours of Buddy Movies Patreon feed, where you can check out our Xmas action movie quiz segment on OJ Borg, Midnight Mastermind show on BBC Radio 2, which we did just a few days
And
ago.
I gotta tell you, we kicked that guy's ass. He just was not. He was not
We
there.
gave him
for
a
it.
hard time.
We gave him a hard time.
No spoilers. 48 Hours of Body Movies as well. We'll continue with our next episode, which will be in January, but we're going to give you this stocking filler in the meantime, and that will continue with a Die Hard on a Blank-esque movie, Rising Sun, a film set in a Japanese corporation in Los Angeles, starring Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes as two cops investigating a case. And
Rising
next
Sun.
time
Rising
on
Sun.
next
You know
time
what I
on
realized recently is that my,
get me
uh,
Milius. Get me
my-
Milius.
My is that my Sean Connery impression is just a less sing-songy version of my Dave Matthews impression. Like it's like the same voice.
Wow, that was a new one. I didn't know you
well, I
had
haven't
that in
done
the
that
in
before
the
because
arsenal.
It's really just Sean Connery, but I go like, yeah, it's bad. Anyway,
Next time on this show, another New York street classic movie, Inside Man, a Spike Lee joint, a fantastic movie.
One of the most stylish action movies ever made.
So look forward to that. So yes, as I say, we will be taking a very quick break over the holidays, but we will be
We need
back
to rest, you guys.
in January, and we will drop that in your feeds in the meantime. That's all I got. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to one and all. And yeah,
We'll be
that's
back
about
next
it.
time with Denzel Washington just wearing the shit out of a fedora. Just wearing the shit out of it. Die Hard on a Blank is a podcast from Philip Gothorn and Liam Billingham. Tyson Hubley makes our art. You can hear exclusive episodes of our Patreon show at patreon.com/48 hours of buddy movies. Rate, review, subscribe, and tell your action movie loving friends about the show. See you next time on Die Hard on a Blank.